Tron is a 1982 science fiction film written and directed by Steven Lisberger. It stars Jeff Bridges, Bruce Boxleitner, David Warner and Cindy Morgan. It follows the character of Kevin Flynn, played by Jeff Bridges, who goes inside a computer system in order to uncover evidence that will prove that he's essentially responsible for the success of this multinational corporation, that it was his programs that got it to where it is, that somebody else took the credit for. So he goes into this system unintentionally, I might add. He actually goes into the building to try and find something on the computer, but due to something else that's going on at the time, he gets involved in an accident and he's literally sucked into the computer world, into the internet, so to speak, even before there was an internet. So once there, he comes across all manner of different programs that either want to kill him or want to team up with him in order to help get him out of the system. One of those programs is the aforementioned Tron of the title, played by Bruce Boxleitner of Babylon 5 fame, a show that I actually quite like. Now, this is a film that I saw in dribs and drabs when I was a child, and I gotta say it never really grabbed me all that much. I'll say a lot of it went over my head, all of it went over my head, to be honest. Some of the things that the characters are talking about in this film today seem bog standard, but when it came out, a lot of the terminology they were using that referred to things of a IT nature, nobody knew unless you were involved in IT. It was just stuff that you wouldn't have a clue what they were talking about. This is a film that was definitely ahead of its time. Coming back to it now for this review, watching it essentially for the first time from start to finish. Like I said, I saw it in dribs and drabs way back when. It's a lot better than I remember it, a lot better than I gave it credit for. When we get into the computer world, I must say it probably comes a little bit less interesting for me in many ways. I like the character dynamics when we're outside at the beginning, all the setup basically. So this character Alan Bradley, played by Bruce Boxleitner, you know, people play two different characters each in this because you've got the version of them in the real world and the version in the computer world. But he has some animosity towards Flynn because Flynn used to date his wife or his girlfriend. I'm not quite sure if they ever reveal whether they're actually married, but either way, there's a bit of a triangle thing going on there, and you see this animosity, but it's an animosity that is laid to one side pretty quickly because, well, this character realizes that something greater is at stake. And I actually like that element about the character. I like that this isn't something that is carried on throughout the rest of the film, and that actually it shows the strength of his character, his moral substance, so to speak, that he can do that. So it's a nice little kind of character arc moment, whatever you want to call it. And I like when these three get together. I want to see them do stuff together. So when we go into the computer world, or more to the point, it's really just Flynn who goes into the computer world. The other two are kind of abandoned. And then we get like I say, computer versions of them that aren't really them, they're just playing different characters. So we've got to then warm up to these computer characters. There's a lot in there when we get into the computer world that just feels like it's there for spectacle. You know, I would imagine back in the day this would have looked incredible, and for the most part it still does, except the computer generated stuff. So there is a lot of computer generated effects in this, but not as much as one might expect. Most of the work that was done in this, the effects work that looks CGI, that looks kind of, you know, what they would later go on to do in Tron Legacy, fully CG, most of it was done here using a technique where everything was done in black and white. Even the costumes were black and white, and they would later colour it in on the film cells. So they would take each individual frame of the film cells and they would colour it in, and that's where you get that light effect that you see in the film. which is quite incredible when you think about it, the lengths that they've gone to get that. Really cutting edge. So when we do see actual computer generated effects, it does show, it does date, not very well, I don't think. You know, you look at the recognizers, which is a type of vessel in the computer world that you see that kind of comes after them. It does look a little bit arcade game-ish, like 80s arcade game-ish, because it's just there for spectacle, because it's there just to give us different action sequences. It does actually get a bit boring. There are times when I'm bored because the story seems to have taken a back seat to, oh, look what we can do, it looks cool, it's edgy, it's cutting edge. Yeah, I'm sure way back when, if I'd have seen it as an adult and had I actually understood what anyone was talking about, I would have been buzzing off it, but not so much now. Not all of it, like I say, there's still a lot of action stuff in here that it just looks really cool, and it's mainly the non-CGI stuff, the stuff that's all the kind of coloured in work. Jeff Bridges in the role, when he's outside of the computer system, I really like his performance, I really like his character. He does have something of the dude in him here, must be said, a bit of a precursor to the dude from The Big Lebowski, obviously. But when he goes into the computer world, I must say, his performance at times feels like a bit of a fish out of water, which I guess many would argue, well, that's because he's in a world that he's never been in before. But I don't mean it in that sense. I mean, he, as an actor, he looks a little uncomfortable, maybe even a little embarrassed being in the get-up that he's in and having to kind of look at things that maybe aren't there and things like that. It doesn't feel like it's Bridges' strong suit. You know, he's definitely an incredible actor, one of my favourites in fact, but I think he's ultimately more comfortable when he's interacting with real world things and is able to relate to them in a real way. So yeah, I think his performance isn't the best in this film that I've seen from Bridges, if I'm being perfectly honest. David Warner makes for a suitably mustache-twirling villain, even though he doesn't have a mustache. But if he did, I'm sure he would be twirling it. I like David Warner. I've always liked David Warner ever since he voiced Ra's al Ghul, Ra's al Ghul, as they called him in Batman the Animated Series. I like him here. He's always a good presence, got a lot of gravitas. Something about his voice, that when he said stuff, it just has weight to it. Bruce Boxleitner and Cindy Morgan also bring some warmth to their characters, I feel. Like I say, that they may be a bit more shortchanged once we get into the computer world. Not as much Boxleitner, because he does get to be Tron, obviously. But yeah, I think that the film deals with some themes that, for a Disney film of the time, are probably heavier than you would expect. You know, it looks into really the idea of God and creation, God and man, and how they relate to each other. And though I must confess, I'm not overly keen on maybe the message that this sends out, because it does imply that actually God never really had a grand master plan, that he just makes things for the sake of making them, just to see how it'll turn out. I personally don't like that, shall we say, implication, but I feel like that's what the film is really trying to make out, that there's no big master plan for us when in terms of what God's got for us, that it's just literally, if you're a creator, you create and you see what, let the chips fall where they may. So yeah, personally, I don't like that implication. I don't like the fact that it's in a Disney film that is geared towards a family audience. Like I say, most kids, this probably would go over their head anyway, but yeah, it does feel very kind of pointed in that regard. So, but hey ho, at least the film is trying to go for something. It's trying to discuss something, it's trying to present certain ideas, and it's up to you, the audience, to decide what you take away from that. The score here as well, it doesn't quite float my boat, I must say, in the way that say the score for Tron Legacy does, and we'll get into that when I review Tron Legacy. But here it seems a little bit too 80s, shall we say. I've never been the biggest proponent of 80s music, it must be said. I know a lot of people really love it. I tend to love modern music that apes 80s music. I'm really into that. But proper full-on 80s synth stuff, like I say, doesn't really float my boat. It doesn't offend my ears or anything, you know, the score in this, but it definitely has that 80s flavour. I like the games that we have in this film as well. So like when Flynn gets into this world, he's kind of forced into almost like a Hunger Games style tournament. They see him as a program. So there's this master control program that's kind of ruling everything inside the computer system. Basically the computer system version of the David Warner character from the real world. And yeah, that when he arrives, they assume he's a program and they put him into these games where they're basically getting rid of all these what the master control program sees as obsolete programs, and it's kind of taking out of them what it wants and then dispensing with the rest. So it puts him in these games, and they're pretty entertaining. Like, I like the Disc Wars game. It's just the way it's presented. Right off the bat, they don't have to explain rules to you. You know, we don't get this thing where they sit down and they tell you what the rules of the game are. They do it in such a way that you pretty much pick up what the rules are right away just by observing them playing it. And I like that they can do that. I also really love the light cycles in this, though I don't quite understand their ability to turn on a dime, like literally Street Hawk style, for anyone who remembers that show. But yeah, like I say, it's just cool visuals, cool action sequences. You know, I'd love a light cycle. I'd love to ride around at night with that tail of light coming out from behind me. It's just a cool visual, basically, as is most of the film. Like I say, there are themes there that you can delve into. You know, it does have a discussion, as with, you know, most great sci-fi, about God, creation, and this, that, and the other. But for me, I wasn't sold on where it was going with regards to what it was saying, and I do feel like at times it relies a little bit too much on, ooh, isn't this cool, you know? So yeah, with that in mind though, I did like this a lot more than I was anticipating, given my memories of it as a child. It definitely surpassed those memories. So I would be happy to watch it again. I think it's a great setup for what may ultimately be a better film in Tron Legacy, but like I say, we'll get to that. I will give Tron 1982 a 3.5 out of 5. Yeah, definitely recommend it. Please check it out if you haven't seen it already. If you have seen the 1982 Tron, then I would like to know what you thought about it. So please do leave your comments below, good or bad. Thank you for watching, and until next time, cracking.